Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. I want to give some food for thought on some lifestyle matters and really think about some of our lifestyle choices and whether or not they actually make sense when you zoom out from it, right? If you don't just live in a frenzied pace and do everything because that's the way you always do it, right? I think doing something just because it's the way we've always done it is one of the most dangerous concepts I can think of in our society. Okay, so this year will mark 20 years since I stopped drinking soda. I used to drink 2-3 liters of soda a day. Now the beautiful thing about stopping the soda was it really cleaned up my attitude toward food, and I started eliminating one bad food after another in the year to come. I distinctly remember, actually, I quit drinking soda in September of 2003, and there was a girl in a class that I wanted to get to know. I was very overweight at the time, but I didn't stop eating all other sources of sugar. And I had been off the soda for 3-4 months, and it was maybe Christmas time, and one day after eating something, I can't even remember what it was, I belched up some gas, and the taste of that gas reminded me of soda, and it was the grossest thing in the world. And that's when I decided to cut all refined white sugar from my diet, early 2004, if I remember correctly. I distinctly remember that time period, because I remember watching Cassini arrive at Saturn and being clean and thinking, oh my God, I'm going to live to be 1,000 years, old enough to see one day when humans can travel to Saturn. I distinctly remember that day. And it was a really good, 20 years later, I can still say that I'm still off of the sugar. Now, some people, when they hear I haven't eaten sugar for 2 decades, will wonder how boring an existence it is, right? I got news for you. I actually enjoy the taste of my food today, more so than 20 years ago when I was eating the sugar. I swear! I swear on the highest stack of Bibles there are. And so, in fact, the sugar, the MSG, the sodas, and all the other crap was destroying my senses. I had no sense of taste 20 years ago. I was just eating and eating and eating, and I was shredding food, basically. But, okay, so why don't we actually think about what tastes good and not just what is convenient to chow down on? More importantly, why do people stick their noses in what other people eat, right? So, obviously, if I'm bored out of my mind, why does that bother you? That's the other thing that I can never understand, right? When I go to a party and I refuse various foods, the only thing I can think of is that these people, it reminds these people that they're poisoning themselves, and they get defensive about that, right? I never tell people that they're poisoning themselves, but it reminds them that they are, right? And that's the only thing I can think of. I'll have to think about how I handle going to social events and avoiding various foods. Many years ago, more like 10-15 years ago, before it was popular or as popular as it is to avoid such foods, I would pretend to take various foods and then hide them. And I actually got in trouble for doing that, actually. I was going to school at Rochester Institute of Technology, working on my PhD, and I would often go to seminars and events, and I would pretend to take cake, pizza, whatever, and hide it behind a desk or something. And a couple times I forgot to toss it out afterwards, and food went rotten. And my dean actually talked to me about it, and I said, some of these students, you can't really please them unless you take their food. And my dean encouraged me to be brave and say, just say that, this is not for me, but thank you so much. And to my surprise, it didn't go completely south, but it created a little bit of a rift. It forced me to answer a couple questions. You gotta understand, a lot of students don't really respect health boundaries. Sometimes they'll ask about it. It just created a little bit of a speed bump, if you will, with the discussion. But why do you care? Now, right now, as I speak in 2023, there's a lot of discussions about returning to the office. Now, the whole point of work, the last time I checked, is production, right? If something is getting done, why do you care how it gets done? Now, I'm a little bit surprised that a big tech giant like Google would care that people return to the office. You would think Google probably has 400,000 or so employees, right? I know because I used to work there and they gave me an employee number that was in the 400,000s, right? And I don't know if they recycled the numbers, but hundreds of thousands. You would think that with hundreds of thousands of people traveling to the office every month, you're probably going to have people who are out because they got into a car accident. Not to mention, on a given day, how many people are, at a given hour, how many people are on the road and not producing stuff for Google. Not to mention, you have to wonder if there's liability issues, right? I talk a lot about distracted driving. If you're driving on the road and you're doing something for Google, even thinking about Google material, and you get into an accident and you kill somebody, I wouldn't be surprised if the family of whoever you killed would want to take action against Google, right? Yeah, I'm surprised that has never happened, right? I hope one of these cases gets tested because I want to see us rethink. Not that I want to see any company lose such an event, but I want to see us rethink the concept of whether or not we need to be in the office, or maybe it would reduce a lot of costs for getting there. Let me give you an example. More generally, why do we care how work gets done? I used to work last year I was working at a tutoring center, and my boss was really upset that I was distracted while teaching the students with checking my phone or something like that. And at the same breath that he would complain about my distractions, he would praise on how I got the students through whatever I got them through. So why do you care how it gets done, right? That's the question I want to ask. Just step back and let me do what I do, get the students through the door, right? Now, the other thing I want you guys to think about is some end-of-life issues. So my grandpa passed away. We just went through his anniversary about 12 years ago now, right? And so I remember thinking as a kid, because I watched my other grandpa pass away. My other grandpa died of liver cancer. My grandpa on my mother's side died of liver cancer. My grandpa on my father's side died of a stroke. And they both had a good runway before going to heaven. And I remember thinking as a kid, if I ever get into that situation, I'll just do something I really love that might be dangerous, right? And potentially go, right? Whether it be rock climbing or skydiving, you do it enough times, one of these times you're going to go to heaven, right? But more recently, I've been thinking, when the time comes, you guys know what I'm going to do now, right? I'm going to stop eating and go to heaven. I've already made a few dry runs of that just to see, and it's very pleasant, I want to say. And I don't know why people push themselves out to suffering when you could just stop eating and go, and depending on if it's a wet fast or a dry fast, a few days or a few weeks, and have a really pleasant last couple, because I always feel lightweight and happy every time I stop eating. That's the funny part of it. I can't think of any other way to go that feels like that. And I remember thinking a couple years ago, Washington State was trying to force us to buy long-term care plans. I remember thinking, I already have a long-term care plan. And I actually wrote to the commissioner and said, can I use this as my long-term plan? And I never got a response from that. But I'm serious, that would be my long-term care plan if I ever got into a situation, because that's a lot more pleasant, especially if I have incontinence issues, right? I can't deal with that. My grandpa on my father's side had a few of those issues. I can't deal with that. It's disgusting. This is the Peter Dislike Show! Bum, 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show! Bum, 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 bum.